So in this video, I'm just going to go over a basic tutorial on how to do a compatibility patch for my UnderSlungLaunchers mod to add compatibility to a specific weapons pack, right? Because the weapons packs that I provide compatibility to, obviously vanilla guns, tactical flava, you've got your Paragon, and you've got your Snafu weapons. They're the ones that I have provided compatibility patches for, but I'm sort of done with this project for now. In terms of adding things, I want to move on to other things. I don't have unlimited time. So this is all I'm going to be doing, other than just maintaining the mod through the future DayZ updates. Actual compatibility packs are either going to be up to you or up to the person that makes the gun pack to make it compatible with my UnderSlungLaunchers. So we're just going to go over the basics of the config, how to set that up. Pretty much all of the settings are in the config. There's not a lot of actual scripting that you need to do. It's basically just plugging settings into the config. Really simple to do. I've made it as easy as I can possibly make it for a new modder, someone that's never played with this stuff before, to get into, to be able to just dabble with it and see how it goes. And then we're going to get into how to tell the game to use our reload animations for the weapons. And then we're going to get into variants, which is a little bit more advanced. You probably won't need it, but it's something that's needed enough that I feel like I should include it in this video. Again, I've made it as simple as I possibly can make it. The script's background handles everything. You've just got to, plug settings in, pretty much. Right, so I'll get into it. All right, so when you download the mod, you'll get this, right? And you go to compatibility tutorial, and then this folder, right? You can basically copy and paste this folder and pack it, make your changes, pack it into a PBO, upload it to Steam Workshop, and it'll be good to go. Everything in here that you need is in here. All right, so this is what you'll see inside. You've got your tutorial, which is your 9 steps that you've got to do. So like I said, really easy, not a lot of steps. The first step is simply renaming things, right? I'm going to assume that you've got some basic level of how to set up a mod. Your PBO prefixes, what do you call it? Your CFG patches and CFG mods. I'm going to assume that you know how to do that. If you don't, it's all here. I'm just going to go over the stuff in this video that I feel like needs a bit more explanation. If you need more explanation on this sort of stuff, there's plenty of tutorials out there on how to set it up. So yeah, I'm just going to go over the basics in this, right? So first thing really to do, or second step really, is to open your config. Everything in this mod tutorial pack where you see your mod name, replace it with your mod name, right? So if you use Notepad++, you can search in file, replace with, if your name's Paragon, then use Paragon, you know what I mean? You can go through and everywhere it says your mod pack name, just replace with what your mod pack name is, right? So then we'll go through down to the actual settings, right? So you've got your rifle variant or its parent or whatever, wherever this stuff is defined, it needs to be wherever modes is defined. Modes has to be defined where modes is defined, if that makes sense. So some weapons packs, like I think it was one of the Flava weapons, yeah, this. So all this stuff gets defined in AKM base, but then for some reason modes is reset in the normal weapons pack in the actual AKM. So you've got to define it wherever it was last defined, if that makes sense. Because otherwise, if it's only set in the AKM base and it's also set in AKM, then our changes in AKM base will get overridden in AKM, if that makes sense. So your modes need to be defined wherever modes are defined last. So all you've got to do is have your modes. Normally, when doing config overrides, you do this and you just go plus equals launcher, and that would add launcher to it instead of completely rewriting it. But for some reason, with modes, I've found that that doesn't always work. It actually doesn't work more times than it does for whatever reason. No idea why. So I prefer to just redefine the whole value. Just get your modes and then just add launcher to the end of it, right? And that's going to give us our launcher fire mode to shoot the actual grenade launcher, right? Um, USL compatibility, set that to 1, obviously. If that's not there or it's set to 0, then the script will ignore it and won't allow an underslung launcher to be attached. Custom reload animations. This is just telling the script that this gun is set up to use custom reload animations for each launcher. Um, M203, obviously, because this gun uses the M203 is 1. And then GP25, this gun doesn't use the GP25, so just set it to 0. Doesn't matter if you have that as 1. It's not going to explode. It's not going to wreck anything. It's not going to do anything weird. Yeah, because it doesn't use the GP25 anyway. Settings group, just set that again to whatever your mod pack name is, and that is going to create your settings file, right? Which is in profiles, BDE, underslung launchers, and there'll be a file there, which is whatever you name this .json, which will be a list of all of the guns that you've made compatible from your weapons pack, and it will have the compatible launchers, and you can either enable or disable the weapons compatibility to those launchers in that file. And that's just there because when I do a compatibility pack, I just set them up to whatever would realistically fit. Doesn't matter if it's a sniper rifle, doesn't matter if it's an assault rifle, doesn't matter if it's a shotgun, doesn't matter if it's a light machine gun. So all that does is just allows it so that individual server owners can, uh, if they don't want people to be able to attach the launchers to a light machine gun or a sniper rifle, which is completely fair, then they can, each individual server owner is able to then turn the compatibility for that gun on or off from a settings file instead of having to make their own override or their own modifications to the actual, the compatibility mod. So that's all that is. Simple. Launcher slot. This is the actual slot on the weapon that the launcher will be able to attach to, right? So if you go into here, wrong config, I believe it's this one. Yep. So to get that, you'll basically find your weapon. This is going to use the example for the M203 and find attachments. That will list, it'll be a bigger list, obviously, but that will list all of the attachment slots that your weapon has, right? So just find whatever slot you want to use, whether it's a bipod slot, whether it's a weapon grip slot, or whatever. Find whatever slot you want your launcher to be able to attach to, and put that here. You can't add slots, all right? Unfortunately, the way DayZ works is the proxies are baked into the 3D model, and you can't add proxies, and slots rely on proxies. So it has to be an existing slot. So for the weapon that you've got doesn't have a bipod slot and doesn't have a grip slot and doesn't have anything that is able to be attached to, then tough luck, unfortunately. You're going to have to talk to the mod creator and ask them if they're able to add a proxy to their weapon that's able to be used for things like this. That's at the moment I'm really shitty because I can't make the vanilla Scar H, the new Scar, compatible because it doesn't have the bipod slot that the older weapons do, like the M4 and the AKs, that I was able to use for the grenade launchers, which is really unfortunate. I'm going to have to get creative about how I do that if I end up doing it, but that's another talk for another day. That's all that is. This launcher slot setting is, though, just telling the script to only allow it to be attached to this slot. It's like that so that if a weapon has a grip slot and a bipod slot, it doesn't get confused on which one it can go in. It'll only allow it to go into the slot that's defined here. Launcher types. is just what launcher it can use. You know, if you wanted to use both launchers, you just do this, GP25, and then bam, now it's compatible with both launchers instead of just the M203. Handguard slot, you get this the same as where you get the launcher slot, except it's the slot that your handguard goes to. So uh, if you get the M4, for example, the handguard slot is this slot. It's the slot that the handguard goes into. If your weapon doesn't have a handguard slot, say it's like this, the Scar, and it doesn't have a handguard slot, leave it blank. Um, and that if you leave it blank like this, it'll just tell the script, hey, this doesn't have a handguard slot. The handguard and rail system is baked into the weapon. It doesn't need anything like that for a weapon to be able to be attached. So ignore that requirement, right? So, but then if we look at the vanilla M4, we can see it's handguard slot M4, right? So then we'll go back to here, and you've got allowed handguard attachments, allowed handguards, and that will basically just tell the script, hey, only allow the M203 with these specific handguards, right? So again, if we go back to the M4, only allow an M203, which requires a rail system, to be mounted to the M4 if it has the handguard that has the rail system, right? So that basically, if you have another handguard on it that doesn't have a rail system, don't allow it to be attached, right? It's like attaching a weapon flashlight. You can't attach it unless you have the handguard that has the rail system on it, right? Leave it blank, like the GP25. Probably better example is look at the AKs. The AKs will only allow the M203 if they've got the rail handguard on them, but they will allow the GP25 no matter what, because the GP25 doesn't need a rail system for it to be mounted. But it's very AK specific, whereas the M203 is very universal. So if we go back into the game, as you can see, you got the rail system with the M203, you got just your plastic handguard with the GP25, it doesn't care. And then you've also got the rail system with the GP25, because the GP25 doesn't care what handguard's there, as long as there's a handguard there. If there's a handguard slot defined, even if this is empty, there has to be something in it. There has to be a handguard attached. You can't attach, even if this is empty, you can't attach a GP25 to it if there's nothing in the handguard slot. There has to be something there, unless this isn't defined. If that's empty like that, then obviously nothing needs to be in the handguard slot, because leaving that empty tells the script to completely ignore these settings, right? Blocked slots. Now, obviously, the vanilla guns, the bayonet gets in the way of mounting a launcher because it sits under the barrel. So we want to tell the game, hey, don't let a launcher be mounted if there's something in this bayonet slot, and don't let anything mount into this bayonet slot if there's a launcher attached. That's basically what that does. You're just defining slots that you don't want able to be used while there's a launcher attached to it, right? And then these blocked attachments, haven't had to use these yet, so you probably won't need to use them either, but they're just for sort of edge case scenarios. Instead of blocking a whole slot, they'll block specific attachments. So if there's some weird edge case attachment that blocks a launcher, but it uses the same slot as other attachments that don't block the launcher, you can define them here. And it will do the same thing as that. It'll either not allow them to be attached if there's a launcher attached, or not allow a launcher to be attached if there's that attachment attached. Like I said, very edge case stuff. You're probably not going to have to touch those, just leave them blank. And then you've just got to have this at the bottom. This is just telling the game that the launcher mode exists, really. It's just that. None of these settings matter. They don't do anything. Reload time's handled via script, and dispersion is handled via the actual launcher config. So yeah, none of that matters. So then once you've got your weapon set up, right? Like this or not like this, when you're doing yours, don't do that. Don't have that. I've got that there specifically for the vanilla weapons because for some reason I got 2 weapon bipod slots, so I've just completely redefined the attachment slots. So yours should look like like this when you're done. All right. Then what you've got to do, right, because we've defined our launcher slot here, you've got to go down and we've told it that the M203 can attach. You've got to go down and define the M203. Go class BDE underslung base, class BDE M203 underslung base. And then you've got to go inventory slots plus equals your grip name. Whatever grip name that you defined here, you've got to add it here. So that this tells the script to only allow a launcher in this slot on this weapon. This tells the game that a launcher can attach to this slot, right? So they work hand in hand, right? So there's that. If you're doing it for a GP25, same thing. You just put your inventory slot plus equals your grip name. And then these are your offset positions. So, like I said, you've only got one proxy. You can't add them, you can't move them, you can't do anything, but you can adjust where each item sits on that proxy, right? So you can adjust the orientation, you can adjust the position, so you can get it sitting nicely where it's meant to sit. There's no straight answer on how to do this. You've sort of just got to. My favorite way of doing it is to just set everything at 0, load the game, see where it sits, and then to get your bearings, close the game, set that to 1, repack the mod, re-upload it to your server or whatever you're testing on, and then launch it again, join, see where it is. If it's sitting heaps far forward, then you know that this is, let's go plus equals forward, and then you set that back to 0, and you set that back to what? That's this to 1, and then do the same thing. Launch the game, see where it's sitting. If it's sitting heaps far up, then you go plus equals up. Usually the third one doesn't do anything. That's usually your left and right. But I've found that these 2 values can switch sometimes. So your best way, in my opinion, to do it is to just do that pre-test, launch your game, see where it sits, move one value, and then once you've got your bearings, then you can start doing your fine adjustments like 0.3 up, or you want to put it forward or whatever, you know what I mean? You can make your adjustments from there. And that's sort of just how you've got to go about it, unfortunately. You've just got to launch the game, see where it sits, make your adjustment, close it, launch the game, see where it sits, make your adjustment, close it. Just do that over and over again until it fits. Now, thank God, this adjustment will work for everything in this slot, right? So you don't have to go and do this for every single gun. You've only got to do it for the guns that use that slot, each individual slot, not each individual gun. So if every single weapon, like in the Paragon, they all use Paragon grip, right? So that's easy. We've just got Paragon grip, and all of them use this offset, which is nice and simple, right? So that's that. That's how you move around where the launcher actually sits on the gun to get your thing lined up properly. So that's all you really need to know for now in the config. We'll get back to that in a minute with the variants, but we're going to move on to setting up the animations now, which is easy to do. So somewhere in your weapons pack mod, you'll have something like this with add item in hands profile IK, and it will have the weapon name and then a bunch of stuff pretty much afterwards. The only thing you want to worry about is this second value, right? So you want to copy this second value, go over to this ASI, which I've provided here, and then you want to put that value here in the parent, right? Easy. And then you want to now, instead of pointing this to this, you want to point it to your new ASI, which we just made here. So you want to have it this. So BDE USL, your mod pack name, compatibility, animations, player at main ASI, which is where this is, right? So we're in the mod pack that we're making, animations, player, and then we've got these like example ASIs here. And that's all you've got to do, right? And all this is doing is telling the game, hey, we want to use these animations, but we want to replace these ones, right? So these are the animations for extending the police baton, retracting the police baton, extending the fishing rod, and retracting the fishing rod. Obviously, your guns don't need those animations because they're not a police baton or not a fishing rod. And if they are, they probably don't have a grenade launcher attached. Um, so yeah, basically we're just using these animations, but instead of using the vanilla animation, we're pointing it towards the mod packs, uh, reload animations. It's really irrelevant. All you need to know is take the original path, put it there in the parent, and then instead of pointing it towards the original, point it towards our new one. That's it. Don't format it like this though. It's only formatted like this for tutorial purposes. It needs to all be in a line like this, straight line like this. If you format it like this, DayZ will have a hissy fit, and you'll get a compilation error, and your server won't launch. So have it in a straight line like this, right? That's all you need to do for the animations. All you're doing is telling the game, hey, instead of using these animations, we want to use these animations. You know what I mean? So we'll get into the variants next, right? So say, for example, you want to have your launcher sitting in different positions on different guns. So the best example for this is the Tactical Flava AKs. So the short barrel AKs, right? They would look really silly if the launcher sat in the same position as where it does on the long barrel AKs, right? Because you see, you look at that line there, it's nearly at the back of the launcher, right? But you look at that line here, and it's only halfway through like that handguard section. So imagine if that was moved forward that distance, the launcher would be out past the barrel. So it'd look really dumb. So what we do here in these situations is we add a variant, right? And a variant is exactly that. It's just a variant that gets used on different guns, right? So with we use a variant on the AKs a lot because see, this version has the butt pad at the back of the launcher. The butt pad's actually baked into the 3D model, right? So if we take the butt pad off, it then reverts to a normal GP25. And then we add the butt stock back, and it changes over. So that's all a variant is, and this is all we're doing here. We're just setting them up, telling the game that if we attach a launcher to this gun, that we want to use this variant. So if you put it in your inventory, you've got your normal GP25, and then you attach it to the gun, and it's the one with the butt pad on it. And that's all we're setting up here, telling the game to swap between these variants. And the reason that you'd want to do that is not necessarily for the butt pad, because it only really works with the vanilla AK models that use the plastic buttstock. But you'd want to do it for different offsets between two different guns that use the same slot, right? So you can only have one slot position per class, right? But you can have different classes, right? So we have a different class down here, which is a variant of the normal M203. And we just have our slot name there, and we can have a different position. See how the normal M203 has 0.1300. We can have down here 0.1600 to move the launcher further forward or further backwards or up or down or left or right. You can move it however you want. And then all we need to do is tell the game that when we attach this to a specific rifle, to change it over to this instead. And then when we take this off a rifle, to change it back to this. That's all we're doing here, which is what this script does. You can copy this script exactly over. All you got to do is, like I said at the start, replace where it says your mod pack name with whatever your mod pack name is. You can, if you've already done the replace at the start, like I said, then you're good to go. Down here is the only bit you really want to worry about. You just got to define your. So this is for the M203. If you want to do it for the GP25, same thing though. You just copy this, replace this with BDE GP25 instead of M203, and then anywhere it says M203 in this section, just replace it with GP25, and it'll do the same thing for the GP25s. But we're just looking at the M203 here. So you just want to define your type name. So you got like variant 1, variant 2, you could have variant 3, variant 4, blah, blah, blah. It's irrelevant. They've just got to be defined here because this will tell the game, the script, that these variants are managed and they need to be managed pretty much. And then down here is where you're actually doing your application of it, right? So you want a different offset on a specific gun. So you've got a Scar H in your mod pack, and your offset fits great for everything in your mod pack except for the Scar H. Then you go over, you make a variant for the Scar H, which has a different position. You come here, you put your Scar H class name in here, and you tell it to point to that variant, and it'll swap between that variant, which will move it forwards and backwards. Because it'll swap to that new variant. Doesn't have to be host get type. It can be host is kind of. So if you've got your Scar H, but your Scar H has 5 different colors, you don't have to define each color variant here. You can just do is kind of, and then whatever your parent class is. So, you like your like here, I wouldn't have to define TF AKMN. I could just define TK AKMN base, and that'll deal with all of the TK, the tactical flavor AKMNs, right? And that's that. That's all that is. That's the whole fucking thing. You can just copy this over and put it in, and it's done. So that's basically all there is to the whole setup, really. It seems daunting, but I just went through all of this in about half an hour. Very feasible that someone that doesn't know anything about this stuff could do this in an hour, and have working underslung launchers in their game with a different weapons pack. So, any questions? Feel free to ask. I'm always happy to answer questions and help people out with anything. Good luck. I hope that I've helped at least somehow in this without it being too confusing or coming across as too much. Like I said at the start of the video, I'm not doing any more compatibility packs. If hopefully this video has given you the confidence to make your own compatibility pack for a mod pack that you like, a weapons pack that you like. If not, then you're always welcome to ask the mod developer of the weapons pack, forward them onto this video, because anyone that has any sort of experience would be able to smash through this, no worries at all. I've made it as simple as I possibly can. But yeah, hope you have a good one. Catch you later.